All right, guys, so I'm not gonna talk about how to get listings, I'm not gonna talk about the marketing listings, I'm gonna talk about how I do my listing presentations when I meet a seller, and someone that wants to raise their hand that said, I wanna sell my house, they wanna interview me to schedule to get the listing up. So this is my processes. This is, we probably listed in the last 2 years, probably over 60 listings. We closed 60 listings. This year alone, I've gone to 4 listing appointments. I got all 4 of them signed so far. So my system is not the perfect system, but it's the system that works for me, right? And I'm sure there's a lot of, you go on YouTube and Google and, Berwyn office, Romeo office, all these other offices, they're gonna tell you, this step works, but this is all for me. And this depends on you guys, on how you guys wanna, use it, right? So this was I named it David's one step. It's not Southside, it's Berwyn's, it's mine. This is what I do, right? So any questions so far? No? Real quick about me. Became a realtor at age 30. Who here is younger than 30? All right, you guys are gonna do amazing. So you guys are way ahead of me, right? I've been a top producer for the Chicago Association since 2016. I've been national top team since 2016. In 2016, for our NARP National Association, I was top 50 millennial realtor. In 2022, I was an association coach, a real estate coach for our association last year. I managed the Pilsen office in the South Side. I'm the youngest of 9. I have a bachelor's degree and I have a master's degree. That's just a little bit about me. Pretty boring stuff there. So before the listing, there's a couple things I want you guys to take note of. So this is a listing appointment to us, right? But to the clients, it's a meeting, So how many of you guys ever went to a first date and then you guys said like, hey, you know what, this is a date. And then the person like, this is not a date. Same thing with sellers. It's not a listing appointment, it's an appointment. So on the Google Calendar or on invites, do not put listing appointment. But hey, David meeting with, Jose. Jose meeting with David. Franco meeting with David. It's just an appointment, okay? It's not a meeting, and obviously send a calendar invite. You guys want to be clear, who are you guys meeting? If it's a husband and wife, make sure you put them on the email. Make sure your assistant's on the email, on the calendar invites. So that's very important. Again, it's a meeting, not a listing. And then call and confirm the meeting. How many times have we gone to appointments and no one's there? Hundreds of times, right? But make sure you confirm that appointment the morning of. If the appointment's at 5 p.m., you're calling at 9 a.m. If the appointment at 9 a.m., you're calling at 8 a.m. You always want to call that morning and start your day with your appointments confirmed, right? And I know you guys might have staff, you might have other people helping you guys out. I live in a world where, like, you know what? I'm gonna take care of my stuff, and I'm gonna make sure my stuff is taken care of. In life, I just don't depend on people too much. I just make sure I take care of it. So I call my clients, I call the sellers and confirm their appointment, right? And then when you're calling the seller, you gotta sound excited. Like, hey, Mr. Seller, like, hey, just want to confirm for the appointment for today. Is still a good time? No, it's not. Let's do it tomorrow. Okay, no worries. Do you prefer morning or afternoon? Afternoon. You always want to give 2 times. Morning or afternoon? Afternoon. Do you prefer 1 or 2? 2. Perfect. So now it's not what they said, it's what you said. Okay? Ask questions about the home. So you can already have an idea of what the home is all about. I've been to appointments in the past where I think it's like a rundown house, and I wonder, and it's absolutely amazing house. For example, I don't know if you guys seen my listing last year in Bolingbrook. One of like a farm style White House. We sold it for $500,000. Went with my friend, told me like, hey, I'm I'm ready to sell my house, and I helped him buy it in 2016. And it was outdated, so I was like, you know what, I don't think he did too much to it. And he literally changed the whole house around. It was already rehabbed in 2016, and he completely changed everything around. So I go into an appointment like, oh shoot, like this is amazing. So never assume, right? Ask questions. The question I always like to say to the seller is like, hey, Mr. Seller, have you done any updates in the last 3 years or 5 years? And then they'll be like, oh, yes. If they told me like, oh, we haven't done anything in 20 years, that already in my head's telling me it's a grandma's house, right? Or it's like, oh yeah, we did the kitchens, we did the baths. Now to me it's sounding like, okay, they kind of take care of the house. So it's already putting a picture in my head. So this is before the appointment. Any questions on this, guys?
What do you feel about confirming appointments through text?
I know we're in a young stage. Pick up the phone. You gotta pick up the phone.
What if it's for someone that would rather get text?
Pick up the phone. Always pick up the phone. I know you guys young people like to DMs and Instagrams. I'm just so adamant about picking up the phone. Pick up the phone. And when the agent tells me like, oh, you know, what do you think about this? Call the agent. What do you think about this? Call the agent. You know, sometimes, you know, we live in that world where it's so simple to send out a message. But let's pick up the phone. Let's understand the emotions. If they sound like very harsh, maybe the deal's not gonna go through. Maybe if they sound soft, then the deal's gonna probably go through. You know what angles to take, right? Did I help you answer the question?
Yeah, actually, the fact that you just said to see their emotion is pretty much.
You have to read that, you know, because, you know, people always tell me like, David, let's meet. Oh, let's do a quick call. No, let's have face to face, because I don't understand what you're going through, and you don't understand what I'm going through. I have to explain this to you in a better way, right? And also with clients, you know, sometimes like, oh, can we just talk? Like, no, set up the appointment. For example, yesterday a client texted me, it's like, hey, David, I have a buyer for you. All right, perfect. And then the client was like, oh, you know, can you have a time to jump on a call? I'm like, no, let's meet. And then we set it up already, you know. So these are just things that, you know, I just love to do. Like, when I have that face to face, I can't read you, you can't read me. You know, it's that the angles, which angle we're gonna take, right? Okay, now meeting with the client. Always be on time. Always be on time. There's a saying like, if you're on time, you're late. Have you guys ever heard that? So always plan your day on time. I know everyone has kids, everyone has family, everyone has obligations, other things. Plan your day. Don't tell the seller you're gonna be there at 2 if you know you gotta pick up your kids at 1. You know, don't anticipate things like that. And, you know, I always like to give extra time. If you're gonna go do your hair, your nails, and it's never 1 hour. It's always 3 hours, 2 hours max, right? So give yourself enough time to be there, right? And what do you do with the client? You know, very simple. You know, people always talk to me like, hey, how do you do your buyer's consultations? How do you do your listing appointments? You talk about the forward script. It's very simple, guys. You know, like, hey, Ray, talk to me about your family. How many kids do you have? You know, hey, how long have you been doing real estate? What do you like doing for fun? Hey, what's this house going to mean to you when you sell it? What's this house going to mean to you when you buy it? You know, talk about the forward script. That forward script should be, you know, 30, 35 minutes long. That should be the majority of your listing appointment. Okay? Who here knows Chinese? You guys know Spanish? Kind of, right? So I don't want to talk about Chinese if I don't know Chinese. Make sense? You know, there's a lot of marketing stuff there, which I'm going to talk about. I never present any of the marketing stuff, because I don't even know what's in it. I never even read it myself. So I just go and talk about the forward script, get to know people, understand them, feel their emotions, feel their vibes, and then go to the, follow the angles you gotta take, right? Find connectors. So when you're in the house, you know, be intentional about being there, right? Be there. Find connectors, like for example, look at the walls. If you see a picture of a military, like, oh, you know what, my brother was actually in the military. Or if you see kids in the wall pictures, like, oh, you know what name are your kids? My kids are this and this. You know what, if you see something that is somewhat a connection with, it doesn't have to be like a immediate connection, it could be a family connection, it could be a long-term connection, it could be whatever it is. Just find connectors and connect with them. Right? So remember, 4 script, find connectors. Is this making sense? Is this pretty simple? Right? And then always ask about these 2 things, time frame and motivation. If you walk out of that listen appointment and you don't know time frame and motivation, you're not getting the listing. That's very, very important when you meet a client. And it's not just a seller, it's a provider too. Right? Understand their time frame and motivation. And then acknowledge everyone. If there's husband and wife, greet everyone. If there's kids, greet the kids too. Even the dogs sometimes. Because they're gonna say like, oh man, this person cares about our family. Right? So acknowledge everyone that's in the room. Questions about this? No?
So is this like a walkthrough of the house?
Yes.
And then the listing presentation, or what order is that in?
So this is my listing presentation.
Oh, okay. The first part would be like going and walking the
Yes.
property.
Yes, yes. Okay. Be a guest, not just a realtor. And I'm going to answer that in a second. When you go into the appointment, when you're entering the house, the first step is the door, right? So what you want to do is ring the doorbell or knock at the door and take a step back. All right? Take a step back, because if you're knocking, ringing the doorbell, and you're like right there in front of them, they're gonna get up. They're gonna feel some type of way. Take a step back, open the door, and then they're gonna be like, "Hey, how's it going? You know, like, hey, it's David. We had a 2 o'clock today. Oh yeah, come on in." So take a step back. All right. Number 2, when you're in an appointment, when you're entering the door, always, no matter if there's carpet, no matter if the house is like a rehab, you have got everything, always be polite and ask, "Hey, do you want me to take off my shoes?" Very, very important. Because now you're becoming a guest in the house versus just a salesperson, right? Always ask to remove your shoes. And then I always like to always say like, "Hey, this this is David, 2 o'clock, great. Is this still a good time for you?" Obviously, you're there, they're gonna say yes, but you always want to be in the form of gratitude and contribution, and say like, "Yeah, it's still a good time. Let's go in here," right? How many times have you guys gone to a listing appointment and they offer you guys water or something to drink, and you guys say no? Always take the water. No matter if you have a full bladder in your stomach of water, and you have to go use the bathroom, take the water. So now you're not just a realtor in their house, now you're a guest. Make sense? Always, always take the water. We lost a listing appointment because of that. I mean, not just because of that, but there's other things. But, just because you're kind of being polite, like, "Oh, no, it's okay, don't worry about it." Now you're like, "Oh, this guy just wants to sell my house." I went to an open house for sale by owner. The lady like, "Oh, do you want cookies?" "Yeah, sure, I'd love to take some. Can I take some for my daughter?" "Yeah, of course." So I'm not the realtor, I'm not a guest in your house, right? And then obviously I ate the cookies at the car, right? So it's very important, guys. So this is how you differentiate yourself from a regular realtor that just wants to sell a listing. So now you're a guest and you're helping them sell a property. Because at the end of the day, the sellers have a problem. They want to sell a house. And you're there to solve it. All right? Questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So on the day of the appointment, do you call them in the morning just to confirm?
Confirm.
still?
Yes, always confirm. Okay. What's it take? All right. I take the listing agreements all the time. I take disclosures, the listing packet. I know our marketing has a nice graphic stuff. Take that. Take comps, minimum 3. If there's no comps, take contingents. take pending, take expires, if you don't see any comps. Take your laptop, take your iPad, take whatever you gotta take, but always take the listing agreement. Because they might be ready right there and then. You know, I know there's that two-step where you like bring them to the office or meet with them again. And you don't know if, you know, they had they went out that weekend and they met a realtor and then they like, oh yeah, come in, and then boom, you snatch it. Unless, I mean, it's your mom or something, maybe, but you gotta take the listing agreement. Always. And I kind of have a little sample. This marketing stuff, I never go over this. I know it looks pretty, I know it looks nice. I don't even know what's in here, to be honest with you. I just take it. And I tell the seller, here's some, you know, I brought you some marketing stuff, so when you're bored, just go over it. Is that okay? Yes. And then take some comps, and then take the listing agreement. That's it.
Question.
What?
So the comps, what are you basing them on since you haven't seen the home? Just like on one
So in the first call, I tell them like, hey Ray, so tell me a little bit about your house. Have you done any updates in the last 3 or 5 years? No, I haven't done any updates. Well, have you done any updates in the last 10 years? No, I haven't. So already in my head, like, oh, it's a fixer-upper, it's an older home, no updates, things like that, right? And they tell me, if you tell me like, oh yeah, you know, we updated the kitchen, the bath, I already know, you can tell that you might be taking care of your house a little bit more. I might be comparing them to more cleaner, bare homes, or maybe some, depending on what you tell me, I'll look at some rehabs possibly. So I base it on that. So I have like a range in my mind, like, okay, if it's a grandma's house, it's gonna be like 150. If it's somewhat fair, it's probably gonna be 200, but if it's rehab, 250. So I kind of go in the mindset of there, and then when I go in, oh, it's a grandma's house, 150 all day.
So you pretty much get ready for all scenarios.
Yeah, depending on the conversation we have on the phone. What?
Do you email them the marketing packet or
No.
anything beforehand?
No. I know there's agents that do that. I'm not knocking them out, but I'd rather them hear from me.
Okay.
And I don't even go over the marketing, like I said. I just go over the comps.
Yeah.
I go over the porch strip. I become a guest in their house, and then they start liking me. And then I shoot my shot.
When they ask you, like, how are you going to sell my house, did you then go over the
Then I go over, and I don't go over this again, so I'll tell them like, hey, you know what? We have over 400 agents. We have, you know, top-notch marketing. We have video. We have this, and this is where the line where you guys highly recommend you guys write this down. I'm gonna do an open house, or my team will do an open house every weekend until we sell this. How's that sound? And you'll be like, yes, that's what I want to hear. What?
My biggest challenge is comms. How do you become, I don't want to say an expert, but like coming out with the right price? Actually, in this past 2 years, I lost 3 listings that I thought I had them, but then they decided, you know, people have a price in mind. They wanna, I come with a price of like 300, like no, I want to sell for 380.
Mhm.
You know, I'm like, oh, it's not gonna sell. And then it happened a few months ago. I had a price at this house at like around 350. She wanted to go with 380, 390, and then her house was sitting in the market, and they reduced the price, and then they came down to 350. So I was like, I wanted to call her. I'm like, you see, I told you it was gonna be 350, and they sold for around 345.
Yeah.
But they had a price. She said 390, 380. You're sitting there. They didn't sell for that. It was the price that I said. But like, how do you make
So-
people understand?
So every listing appointment, I try to be completely honest with them, no matter, and I'm actually gonna talk about it in the next slide, but I always wanna know your number first. Like, you tell me like, so what do you think your house is worth? 380. Like, okay, well, based on the comps and with the market, I think we're gonna sell it at 300. What do you think? Oh, no, it's not worth it. Or like, no, I can't do 300, whatever. Like, okay, well, can we do maybe in the half, like 350? And I still think it's not gonna sell 350. Like, okay, so you give them, you take some too. So you tell them like, okay, 350, and like, well, will 350 be okay to list it? And then they'd be like, okay, maybe. Now they're kind of like budging a little bit, right? And then you tell them, okay, we'll list at 350, but in 2 weeks, if we don't sell it, we're gonna go drop it to 300. Is that okay? And they'll be like, all right, fine. So it's like a win-win. So you can't go in there thinking like, oh, I'm gonna get it at my price, because you're probably not. You know, unless they tell you like, oh, my house is worth 300. Like, you know what? You're on the spot. I think it's gonna worth 300. So then you're gonna get it. Make sense? So you kind of have to like take tug of war a little bit with that. The first negotiation starts with the sellers, and then you go on the market, and then you start negotiating again. Did that kind of? I actually got some other things I want to talk about real quick. All right, questions? Good questions. Go on. 2 weeks. 2 weeks. All right, what to say? Here's the listing appointment. All right. First question I ask, so how much do you think your home is worth? And then, you know, probably like 80% of them will give me a price, and those smart ones, but the ones that have more experience will be like, well, that's why I hired you. That's why I called you. Like, you know what, good thing. And I'll try to say it in a different way. So if I give you a hat cash here, how much would you take for this house? You know, switch it up a little bit. I want to get their number first. But it's been times like, you know, where they just don't budge. Like, okay, you know what? Well, based on the comps, I think it's worth 300. Like, oh, you know, we're thinking about 350. And then you go back, like, okay, well, why do you think it's worth 350? Like, oh, because, you know, we put so much money into it, this and that. But like, I completely understand where you're coming from that, but I think we're gonna sell it at 300 no matter if we put it for $1 million. We're gonna sell it at 300. Well, how about this, Mr. Seller? Let's do 320, let's test it for 2 weeks. And then if 2 weeks doesn't sell, we'll drop it to 300. How's that sound? Good. And at the same time, I'm nodding too. You know, it's that mirror effect. It's sales technique. You have to be agreeing with them, and they're going to start agreeing with you too, right? And I'm like, okay, fine. And then boom, and I put on my notes, put in the listing agreement, drop it 300 after 2 weeks. So they could get a win. And it's not always just us. Let them get a win too. Remember time frame motivation. The next thing I'll say, like, if you were just up today, where would you go? Obviously, you want to get the buy side. Obviously, if it's an investor, it doesn't really count to them, right? But you always want to know what they're going to do with the property. You know, I have many like older folks that will sell their property, like, oh, we just want to sell and want to go to like Florida or Texas or whatever. Cool, let's pitch you a realtor over there. Let's get a referral fee out of that, right? How soon do you want to sell? You know, there's people like, oh, I'm not in a rush or whatever, or they're gonna say like, you know what, I want to sell as soon as possible. For example, I have a divorce client that tells me like, dude, we want to sell like yesterday. I'm like, okay, cool, let's price it aggressively, and if it doesn't sell, we're gonna drop the price fast. Like, do what you gotta do to sell it. Right? Go ahead.
So how do you deal with the ones that are kind of like, in the waiting thing? You're there, you got the appointment, whatever, and then there's only like months ahead, like I'm not ready.
Those, I mean, you just gotta kind of, so what I'll do, I'll sign the listing agreement, and then tell them, okay, so in 3 weeks, so we did it with Linwood, same thing. We put a plan together, like, okay, in 3 weeks, we're gonna, you guys are decide you guys are gonna clean it up. So I'll go to the appointment again, okay, it's still not clean. When do you guys think you guys are gonna finish? In 2 more weeks. Perfect, I'll go meet them again, and kind of check up on them.
So it's kind of like, okay, for you to keep showing them, I feel like I'm bombarding them with my face, and they're
No.
gonna be like checking it out, it's like, get off my.
No, that's Anna telling you, Anna.
Okay.
That's not what they're saying to you. Right? It's a mindset, you know? All right. Did that answer your question? Yes, all right. Perfect. Every time I go to a listing appointment, right before we're about to sign, I always say this, we can definitely sell this. Right? I make sure everyone in the room hears me say that. Like, we could definitely sell this. Or our team could definitely sell this. Right? Because now we're putting positive reinforcements that we're going to do what we said we're going to do. Right? And then obviously then I go for a close. Then I'll say like, okay, so get started. All we need to do is get the paperwork out of the way. You guys ready? Yes. And then boom, I have the listing agreement ready, I have the disclosures ready. I'm going through it. And that probably takes the longest. That's like the worst part of the listing appointment. I have to go through this one by one, page by page. And then we sign. Another closing part is like yes, I can sell this. Like I can have my marketing team here next week. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, you know, what day? Once they tell me, once they work like coordinating this time, I go, oh, okay, I got this. Make sense? Questions about these? No? Very simple, right? Where realtors fail a lot is we forget to close the deal when we're in the listing appointment. Sometimes we're too nervous. Sometimes we think that they don't agree with us or we're not agreeing. We gotta ask for a close. We gotta ask for a close at least 5 times. What does the close 5 times mean? So what's stopping you from signing today? Oh, I don't like the commission. Okay, well, what's wrong with the commission? And you start talking about it. Are you ready to get started? We fix the commission. Yes. If I can get you boom, boom, boom. If I could get you this, are you ready to sign? Yes. Any other questions before we get started? Any other questions before we sign? Well, you just told me you needed to sell in a month. Are you ready to sign today so we can get started on this? Right? So you gotta ask for the close multiple times during the appointment. Don't just get for a first no. I always like talking about this. At a listing appointment, it was for a 4-unit. The gentleman the conversation went well. Everything was going fine. And I told him, so are you ready to get started? Like, well, you know what? I still gotta think about it a little bit. I'm like, okay, well, what you gotta think about? Well, you know, I'm that type of person that sleeps on it for a day and then I'll make a decision tomorrow. Okay, well, can I help you with that decision? Like, what's stopping you? Like, really nothing. I just need a day to just think. Okay, well, let's just get the paperwork signed. I'll call you tomorrow and we'll schedule the marketing. Okay, that's fine. You know, so he signed right there and then, just because he was training live, and we're all kind of training live, like, okay, you know what, I gotta sleep on it, or let me think about it, or before I buy the car, you know what, let me talk to my wife, let me talk to my husband. You know, we're all trained in life to do that. And so was he. But I pushed just a little bit, and he was like, okay, fine. And then we sold it, right? So we just gotta ask for the close multiple times, different languages. If you speak Spanish, say it in English. If they speak only English, say it in Spanish. However you guys want to say it, just keep saying it over and over. And until the 5th one, they don't budge, just be like, okay, you know what else can we do? You know, then maybe start negotiating price, start negotiating commissions. But you should be able to get them to sign right there. What?
Are you going to address the objection of your commission to lower?
The thing I always say, to answer the question, that's not the part of the presentation, but I always like to say it like this. My commission's too high. Okay, why do you think that? And then obviously they'll tell me like, oh, you know, I have someone else that can do it for 5%. Okay, so if we charge you 5%, you want to sign today? Yes, you sign. Or they'll tell you like, okay, well, if I can't even negotiate my commission, you know, how do you think, you know, hold on, so if they're not able to negotiate their commission, how do you think they're going to represent your house? You know, so little things like that has helped me, you know, get my commission 6%, 5%, 5.5%. You know, so I take commissions from 6 to 5%. I do 5.5. It doesn't have to jump to 5. It could be 5.5, 5.75, 5.25. There's a lot of numbers between 5 and 6.
Do you ever go under 5?
Unless it's like a VIP client of mine, that's the only time. There has to be some type of value.
Do you answer to them right away? Like, what's your
Is that a phone call, or is that a text message, or is that?
Person, same person.
Have I looked at the property, have I not looked at the property?
Please look at the property.
So I only answer the commissions when I'm in front of the client in their property. If they tell me like outside the realms of their listing appointment, I'll tell them, well, it depends, I need to go see the property. It depends, I need to look at this. It depends on the house, it depends on everything. And they're gonna keep asking, well, what's your permission? Like, well, it depends. When can I go see it? I can go today if you want me to go see it. What?
Did you give them a net sheet when you're at the listing appointment?
It depends. Depends how I kind of feel in a way. Like if the listing appointment is going pretty good, I just give them like an estimate, like, hey, about 8% to 9% is gonna be your total on cost. If it's more like those, like, hey, you know, well, so how much am I gonna come out with? Then I'll do the net sheet right there and then. But if not, then I'll just go over to my averages about 8 to 9% it's gonna cost. And how's that sound? Great. Perfect. And then I'll do a simple math. You know, 100,000, 8%, 8,000. How's that sound? Okay, sounds good.
That includes your fees, right?
Yeah.
And the closing costs and all that.
Any other questions on that? That's kind of it. So it's very simple. I know a few people have gone to my appointment. I know Ray and Aaron have gone to my appointments. Guys, it's very, very simple. Like if you start talking about this stuff here, this is Chinese. Like, I will not be able to talk about these 14 steps, these things that we do. I mean, it's all great, but I don't talk about this. You know, what the seller wants is their comps and their listing rate. That's it. And their disclosures on it.
But do they ever go and ask you, like, how is this working? What am I gonna have to do on my end?
Yeah, it's a conversation, like, okay, Hannah, so we're gonna list your property, we're gonna put a sign, Eduardo's gonna call you to schedule all that stuff, and after that, you know, we'll be talking to you weekly.
So is there anything you use to create like a net sheet?
Yeah, I use the app Chicago One. There's an app Chicago One. It's free, I think, right? And I use that to create net sheets right there on the spot. It's a pretty cool tool. Or you can call, you know, Claudia Yvette. She's done net sheets for us too, from Title of America. It's basically
Attorneys can make them.
our attorneys can make them too.
Do you create one where they're covering the closing costs or somewhere they're not covering the closing costs to give them an idea? of-
No, I put everything on the net sheet, the commissions. And so when they ask me for a net sheet, I always put 6%. You know, and then I give it to them like, hey, so you're gonna walk out with 150,000 after my fee, after all the fees. What do you think? Oh, 150,000? Yes, great. And then I have them sign.
Why not 7%?
I'm a discount holder.
No. What is your methodology whenever you get an objection that you haven't encountered before?
What? Say that again?
Like, how do you handle an objection that you haven't gotten before? Like, this first time I hear about this. I do have one time, for example, like, hey, why should I choose you over a local broker?
So, good one. Like for something like that, like for example, I had the Aurora listings about 4 or 5 years ago, and one of the things was like that, like, you know, and I'll tell them like, why would you want an Aurora realtor if they only know Aurora people? The people that are buying these properties are people from Chicago. I have Chicago clients. You know, that only makes sense, right, Mr. Seller? And they'll be like, yes. And then sign right here.
Oh, good.
Right? So just little things like that, like I always make them agree, like an objection like that, like, and like, wouldn't you think that too, Mr. Seller? Wouldn't you think that too, Jose? And then they'll be like, yeah, that makes sense, you know?
Because you're closing it with a time.
Exactly. I'm tying them down with a conversation, but they just, I'm basically just rewording the conversation back to them, exactly what they just told me. Make sense?
You make us say yes all the time, yes.
So, that's kind of it. I mean, I've done a bunch of objection handling, like, you know, biggest thing is commission, biggest thing is what are you gonna do, you know, and we know it, you know. We bring a lot of value. We're gonna sell their properties. We just gotta make sure we price it right and be very firm on the pricing. You know, the biggest thing is you have a listing there for months, but you didn't communicate that after a certain time we're gonna drop it. That's when we get stuck. So definitely make sure that communication's open. And even if their house is worth like say 200,000, they want 300,000, you gotta tell them like, hey, I did tell you that your house is worth 200,000. I was completely honest with you. But you wanted to go with 300 and we did, you know.
Show them the CMA and show them the convertibles.
Show them the comps. Exactly. What?
So yeah, you're basing it now, I'm assuming you're doing it because of your expertise or all that. As far as the comps, you go up your price as far as with the comps, but like for newer agents, do you, at the beginning of the book, what did you use the most, or what did you feel like kind of helped you more inside of the price?
The comps.
Just the comps.
We have to use the comps. There's
I
no-
know you made those very average, that helped you decide and stuff.
I mean, everyone could go on like on Zillow, Rapid, they'll give you like a ballpark idea, but if you don't look at the comps, I mean, it's not real data. You know, you have to look at the comps. You have to figure out the pricing. Obviously, from like 310 to 315, 320 is not a big difference. You know, so as long as you're like in the ballpark of $50,000, $25,000, you should be okay. You know, don't think that you have to price it at 315, 6, 8, 9 type of thing. You know, just be in the realm of it, right?
I think my question also was like, how many of each comps do you use? 2 contingent, 2 or 3, like?
I try to take 3 comps of whatever I have. Sometimes when the market was like, when the rates went up so high, all the comps I took were comps that were under contract. They weren't even closed. So like, hey man, there's no comps. You know, I cannot use 1 month, 2 months comps because those are irrelevant. You know, we gotta use the stuff that's under contract today. And I don't even know what they're closing for, right? So those are the type of conversations we're gonna have. And be honest. The biggest thing is being honest with them. You know, I'll tell them straight up like, hey, the market's messed up. But if you really want to sell this, let's look at what's under contract right now. These people did it right. The thing also too, you gotta be confident about the things. So this is why, like, if you know 3 documents and they all are in the realm of the same price point, there's not really much else you could say about this. It's all like, oh, okay, this is 125, 130, 135. It's all here. Don't start talking about, you know, something that you guys don't even know how to explain. Don't start putting about info spars and don't start talking about, you know, whatever. You know, you guys know Mexican food. This is Mexican food. Don't start talking about Chinese food. You guys don't know about Chinese food.
When it comes to your commission, you said you would go over the final number with them rather than tell them about your number, or you tell them, hey, this is my percentage, and then you go over.
So when I go over the listing agreement, I tell them like, okay, so our fee is 6%. That's also included in the net sheet. That's part of the 8% that I gave you. Everything's good? Yes.
Okay.
I don't like, not that I'm like kind of like avoiding that question with them. I just tell them like, you know, it's part of the whole thing. It's part of your bottom line number.
Do you give them a discount if you double end the deal?
No. I try not to. I try not to because then they're like, okay, we got him. And then they're gonna be like, oh, well, when they buy, they're like, oh, let's try to get them down even more, and it just becomes bad. You know, because then they start nitpicking about everything, about inspection items, about credits, and then you kind of basically train them to negotiate with you, and you don't want that.
Have you ever had, have you ever had someone object your idea of dropping the price down once he already signed, you already signed?
No, they always do it. Just because, remember, it's like we're winning, we're tug of war. Like, all right, I'll let you get this one, but let me get this one. They're like, okay, fine.
To add to that, it always comes down to communication. If
Yeah.
you're constantly giving them updates every week, and they're like, yeah, nobody's in their house for a week, it makes that conversation a lot easier. Like, obviously, something's wrong, so we gotta work with the price.
Okay, this goes back to meeting with the Southern. So we have matches around the city, and we get a call that they want to Southern House. So if he calls and I tell him, I'm like, yeah, when can we come see the house? When can we come today? He's like, no, but I'm available on Saturday. I'm like, all right, we'll be there Saturday at some time. And he said, can you tell me a little bit more about the process? I mean, well, first we want to see the house, and then you can come and bring you into the office. That right there kind of like killed it, because he's like, yeah, sure. And then after that, we were following up, and he kind of just kept us giving us a letter and saying, no, I don't have time. So I guess he didn't like the fact that he wanted to come into the office. So how would you go about that?
So I don't do that stuff. I go to the one shot kill, like, hey, you wanna meet on Saturday? Perfect, I'll be there at 10. And I'll be there at 10. I know you're talking about the two-step where you meet them at the office. So again, this is back to my first slide, David's one-step appointment. So that's why I do the one-step.
First time. Right?
Just go there, you know, with everything and ready to go. Because if he calls someone else, if he calls me, I'll be there at 10 and I'll have him sign.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And obviously people are calling, I'm sure they're probably calling other agents, right? So I'm sure that other agent's like, no, we'll meet you at your house. And I get the whole philosophy about the two-step, but for me, I prefer the one-step over the two-step.
The reason why I did that was because you told us the two-step. There were other trainings, so that's why.
I never talked about the two-step.
Yeah, I think it was Eddie. Yeah, actually.
They look completely different.
It was none of you guys. So
I didn't talk about the two-step. I won't talk about the one-step. But again, this is mine. Full disclosure is what I do. So again, you guys can pick and choose whatever you guys want. But yeah. You know, so. Anyone has questions? Anyone want to share any objecting handlers?
You ever tried to win over someone, like stuff like investors saying like I would rate a certain agent already for a long time, kind of having to run into that. By door knocking specifically, do you ever try to kind of push it more, like at your end, for you to try to get the listings, or kind of just let them see what they're.
So we're saying is you meet an investor, but they already work with another agent.
But not on the current property. At the moment,
Yeah, just keep following up with them. You know, because relationships, are not forever, right? You know, so you gotta pick up the rest. Like I always like to say sometimes when some objections that I've got, like, oh, I already work with another agent, so and so, and obviously if they're not budging, then I'll be like, you know what? I could definitely understand that. And I'll tell them like, hey, you know who Brett Favre is? And they're like, most of them will say yes, right? I'm like, did you know that Aaron Rodgers was in the bench for multiple years? Let me be your Aaron Rodgers. Let me be your backup quarterback in case this one doesn't go through. Is that fair? And they'd be like, yes. So I like saying that. And 50-50 chance they'll come to me, but at least I put that in their head that I'll be their backup. All right?
What if he's a Bears fan?
Cool. That's all I got, guys. Hopefully you guys grab something out of this and use it in your next appointments. Thank you guys so much.